On this week's episode of the RAG podcast, I was joined by Lauren Hopkins. Lauren is the managing director of Grace Personnel. Grace are a small specialist boutique recruitment firm headquartered in Maidenhead, and they recruit across the geography of Maidenhead. They recruit multi-sector roles. Now, Lauren, I brought her onto the show for a very specific reason. She is the managing director. She's running the show. She's got 5 staff. She's bringing them out of lockdown from furlough, and she's got growth plans, etc. But Lauren is not your typical recruitment owner because she didn't start the business. She joined the business actually as a graduate, originally getting temp jobs through the agency, and then got brought into the business as an employee, as a recruiter, and spent the next 3.5-4 years as a recruiter. It was only at this point when the founder of the business began to get ill. She'd fallen ill, and Lauren started to step up and start to managing more and more of the day-to-day operations. However, in 2016, after about 4 years, the owner decided to step down and sell to a private equity firm. And in that deal, that's where Lauren stepped up, was given the opportunity and stepped up to managing director. Now, she'd only been in recruitment a few years. She was a 26-year-old female who, well, after listening to the story, you can tell she doesn't get too fazed by things, and she went for it. But she also talks about how her fear of failure was huge. And, you know, the business is 20 years old now, so 15, 16 years old at the time, lots of legacy, lots of history. She really didn't want to drop the ball on this. So she's now, late 20s. She's running a recruitment business that she didn't actually found, but she's now an equity partner, managing director, and came through an absolute different journey. So in this show, we talk throughout the whole story, how she got into recruitment, how did her career progress, what happened at that point when she took over, and what's happened since. So many of you, I think, will resonate with Lauren. She's an amazing person. She's got a really honest and transparent view on what's going on, and some exciting plans as to how she sees the business moving forward. So I hope you get loads and loads of value from this episode. Without further ado, Lauren, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Not a problem. It's been, you are season 3, episode 2. So early on. And Lauren, I've given you an intro there. I've mentioned you to our listeners, but I can never do it justice. So for the benefit, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Lauren. I'm the managing director of Grace. We're an independent business support agency in Berkshire. We're a small team of 5, and we celebrated 20 years last year. And we work with businesses across the Thames Valley area and help to connect them with the best local talent across business support functions.
Sure. So you 20 years old as a business, but you're not 20 years in the game. So, but you are. So what's your role now? Managing director.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that? You literally like top of the tree, managing the whole thing.
Yeah. So it's owned by a private equity firm, part me. So day to day, there is no one above, but obviously we are sort of owned by a bigger entity.
All right. Okay. So how often do you catch up with those guys?
Probably casually on a weekly basis, and then sort of once a month. Probably not as much now because there's not as much to catch up on. Sort of monthly, every 6 weeks.
Yeah. So how's before we get into it, how's life in lockdown for you? Obviously, I know you anyway. We catch up through my academy and as a Hoxo customer. But for the listeners, like, paint the picture what life's been like in lockdown.
Personally, absolutely fine. I can't complain. Yes, I'd love a house and a big garden, but I'm in a flat with a big balcony and people are much worse off. So I'm not complaining. I haven't killed my partner just yet. So personally, it's fine. I've been set up to work from home. Okay. I've actually been far more productive than I thought I would be. So personally, not a problem at all. Business-wise, it's obviously been an interesting.
Have you found, how has the Thames Valley responded?
Quietly. I mean, it's I'm not beating around the bush. It's been a shit time for most people. But you know, whilst it's not been great, there's a lot of positives to take out of it for everyone. And I, we'll never have this time again to been able to do some of the things I've done over the past 3 months. So I think whilst it's been less than ideal, actually it's given us time to do things to sort of better ourselves when we come out.
Yeah, I think most businesses, if you've not used this opportunity to kind of look at your processes and clear the decks of stuff, just get shit done that you wanted to do. Like even the Hoxo Academy that you're a part of, like I've been planning that for a year, like probably 2 years, to be honest, since, about 2 years ago when I was in this shit office in Bow. I remember doing a video. I was walking down the street when Hishem used to work with me. We did this video on a Friday in the sun, having talked about a personal brand course.
Oh, I didn't know you worked together.
Yeah, Hish used to work for us for about a year. And I did this video saying like, who would be interested? He was in the background, both laughing, saying who'd be interested in a personal brand course. And we got so many messages, like went nuts. And that was in summer 2018. And it's always been on my radar. And I know Hish went and did something slightly different, but very in that space. And he's done really well. And then when lockdown came, I was like, it's time to just do it. Like you just, I've got an opportunity to take that time to do it. So, you've got to make the most of it. So season 3, I've talked to you about it before, and I've mentioned on last week's episode that this season I want to get more under the bonnet of the people and the humans behind the leaders of recruitment companies. So less recruitment chat, more human chat, right? And when we spoke, one of the things I was really interested in with you is the journey that you've been on, because I wouldn't say are the most like traditional or stereotypical recruitment owner in the journey you've had. So can you let's go back to when let's tell the story before you started or became the MD, and how did that all eventuate? So when was it? Tell us the story from the start.
Okay. A very snapshot then of my career. So graduated.
We're not in a rush. Don't worry. You can tell us.
Graduated in 2011.
Yeah.
And then I registered with Grace as a candidate.
Wow.
For some temp work. And the aim was to save up and then head into London, live the life with all my friends who were also packing up and living in London.
Mm-hmm.
And got a PR internship for 3 months in Central. Did that. Hated it.
Really?
Absolutely hated it.
Why?
Yeah. It may have just been the wrong company. I don't know. It's just, I was so bitchy, so catty. Everything I'm not. I hated it. But I stuck it out. I did it. And after that, I just thought, I'm not doing that again. It's just not the environment for me at all. And then I'd already had planned a couple of months volunteering in Africa. So I went straight from the PR internship 2 days later, flew out to Ghana to do a couple of months up there.
Did you have to pay to actually do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I used the money that I'd saved from temping as a Grace candidate to fund the flight and enough to go out there and get supplies. So I went out there for a couple of months.
What was that like?
Amazing. The most amazing experience ever. And if anyone gets the opportunity to do it.
Well, my brother did it. He went from, I think he went from Mozambique down to South Africa or something. I might be wrong. I'm not the best with South African or African geography, but I know he went through a lot of countries, and we traveled Asia back in the day together and did a lot of India and Southeast Asia, like Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand. And I felt like, there's some really poor parts of the world, and India is incredible. But my brother said that Africa was another level. Like there's parts of, like, I think he went to Kenya and stuff, and places where made India look wealthy, like the slums of India. What were you actually doing then? Building schools or something?
Yeah.
It's usually the way, isn't it?
Yeah, basically the stereotypical volunteer. That's exactly what I was doing. When you got out there, you could teach, you could do more hands-on work. And sort of traditionally, a lot of the females went and did the teaching. And I actually thought, I want to get my hands dirty. So I didn't do that. I went with most of the guys and did more sort of hands-on building. And then we met up with some doctors and did some sort of outreach medical drops. So we sort of go off to sort of really, really remote areas and essentially deliver medicine. The doctors would sort of be there to actually facilitate things, and we were more there as bodies to kind of guide people.
What were the people like? Like, how did they respond to the work that you were doing?
They're probably, well, without a doubt, the most friendliest people I have ever come across.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Just grateful for the help.
Yeah, just so lovely. I've always had quite an interest in African culture anyway. And then, so when I went out there, for me, it was something that I'd wanted to do for years. But everyone's just so happy. And there's some such beautiful places out there. I mean, we volunteered Monday to Friday, and then at the weekends we were able to sort of go and visit as far as you can and come back for the Monday. So we weren't able to go geographically too far. But on the coast, there are just some absolutely beautiful places that you would never think would be there. They were amazing. And coming back was awful. I cried.
How long did you do that for?
Just over 2.5 months.
You spent all your money back in the miserable British weather.
I came back. I absolutely hated it for the first 3 weeks because it was such a shock. Although it sounds silly, I'd only been there a couple of months, so it wasn't like I was living there for years and years by any means. But it's such a different way of life. I mean, we didn't have any hot water where we were living. We had a tap outside with running water, but no flushing toilets, no heating, nothing like that. So you very quickly adapt to it. And then when you come back, it's just bizarre. I remember the first day I came back, I went to go to the bathroom, and I genuinely went outside to pick up a bucket, which is what we would do. We'd go outside, get the bucket, fill up from the tap, go and fill the back of the toilet in with it, and then you'd go again.
Yeah.
And I went outside and went to the bucket and thought, okay, right, put it down. But it was such a shock. But it was the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, I remember when I went traveling in 2010. It's 10 years ago. For fuck's sake, it makes me feel so old. I didn't have the grey hair back then, fortunately enough. It was going a little bit. But 2010, me, my business partner now, Amma, and my best mate James, we flew out on the 29th of October to Mumbai. And we went on this, we stayed for 2 years, ended up in Australia. That's how I got into recruitment. But I flew out, and I remember, I'd watched Slumdog Millionaire a few times. And Amma's Punjabi background. He's not from India. He grew up in Nuneaton near Coventry. He'd been to India before, to the Punjab, but never to the major cities, I don't think. So I remember getting there thinking it's going to be like Slumdog, it's going to be like the music, and you've seen all these drone footage of the slums. And we flew in over the slums, and I was like, it's literally that. And then I just remember coming out of the airport, getting literally ripped off in a taxi, getting pushed into these cabs that were well too expensive. Yeah. And we had a 45-minute drive to our hotel. And I still remember it was the most eye-opening 45 minutes of my life. You'd see cows crossing the road and families just all going to the toilet on the roadside. The whole family having a number two, should we call it, on the roadside next to each other. And you're like, what the fuck? You'd see a motorbike go past, and there'd be 6 people on the back, watching you, waving at you, and you're just like, is this real life? Yeah. And then you come back to the UK, and it's just
it's not exciting.
Did that even happen? It's is that a dream? Or I always get that feeling when it comes.
I remember coming back, and for a few things, one was, it's a bit boring crossing the road now. There's no danger. There's not, oh my God, are we going to make it to the other side? Whereas the first few days, you think, oh my, a bit like in Vietnam, we had that, just constant beeps. You're like, I'm never going to cross the road. But after a while, it becomes really exciting. And then when you get back, you think, just press the red line. And you just walk across. It's just, it's not as fun.
When I was 20 years old, I went to America for 3 months. I coached football in California. And I went to Vegas first. And I did a month in Vegas coaching there. And I'd never heard of jaywalking. I didn't know what the hell it was. And I got pulled over by a copper for crossing the road in Vegas. And he's told jaywalking. I was like, Jay who? Who? You got my name wrong? I was really shocked. What the fuck are you talking about? He's like, I didn't realize you had to cross at lights in America. I was like, so you got that extreme, and then you got Africa and India where shit just goes on whatever they want.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
Oh gosh, yeah. So came back and then went back to Grace. Need a job. Still haven't moved to London. And did a couple of temp jobs. And then the founder, so my then boss, popped into the little meeting room, as you do back then, and she said, did I want to come and interview for a permanent job? Okay,
So
sure.
you're working through Grace, and then they offered you a job to work
And then the
for Grace.
director just approached me and just said they were hiring, and would I be interested in interviewing for a consultant's role? And I had been really honest and said I was saving because I actually don't really want to stay around here. I want to go into London where my friends are.
Yeah.
I'm young. This is when I want to do it. But I mean, I don't know anything about recruitment, so I'll give it a go. I want a job. I want, I spent a load of money on stuff.
What did you do at uni?
I did hospitality management, of all things, which, contrary to what people think, is not how to put a pint.
No. It's probably not a bad degree, though. It's probably not a bad degree for you for recruitment. But it's about logistics and communication, and it's
got the same modules as the business course, but you've got mixed in with that is events, tourism, that sort of thing. So you have economics, business, marketing, all those sort of things, but also with more of a kind of people-based side.
Sure.
So kind of relevant. It's people-based. And so she said, right, go away, come back in 2 days' time, and we'll do an interview. This is what you want to prepare. So I went away, did a load of research. What is a recruitment consultant? What are the key skills of a recruitment consultant? I didn't know anything about it.
No.
And then had an interview with her, got called back. Of course, I had a holiday. I was going to Marbella with the girls. So I said, I'll come in just before that. Did my interview, went straight on holiday, and she called me whilst I was by the pool. I remember the call because I was saying to the girls, and she told me that I got the job. So that was an even better surprise on the holiday.
A quick interruption of the episode to bring to you a message from our sponsor, which is Odro. Odro, as most of you probably know, is the world's most powerful all-in-one video interview platform for recruiters. Used by thousands of recruiters worldwide and with some of the industry's biggest names amongst its client base, Odro is a video interview platform. It was developed specifically to help agencies increase their revenues. The most innovative solution on the market, Odro's software helps recruiters to engage more talent, reduce time to hire, and most importantly, it helps you win business. You'll even get the ROI back from investing in Odro within just 45 days. It's designed to benefit everyone in the process, so from recruiters to clients to candidates, Odro's platform is improving the hiring process one interview at a time. We chose to partner with Odro because we felt like both brands, Hoxo and Odro, were in such a clear alignment in the way that we approach everything we do and how passionate we are about helping this industry grow. If you want to find out more about how Odro can help your agency transform its process and win more business, win exclusivity and drive revenue, then click the link on the podcast notes and every social post that goes out, and you will get a call back by one of the Odro guys. They are awesome, and I'm sure they'll be able to offer some amazing value to your business. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the show. So do you remember what year was that then? 2012 or 2013?
Yeah, August 2012 I started.
Wow, that's when I came back from travelling. I landed in London in August 2012. Ooh. Remember it well. The summer of the Olympics. What a year.
Yeah, 2012. That seems like a very, very long time ago.
It does.
So I started as a permanent consultant and then moved around a little bit, took on a bit of temps.
So how long till you become the MD? Like how did that journey happen?
That happened in 2016.
All right, so you're there for 4 years as a member of staff.
Mm-hmm.
And how did your career progress in that 4 years?
So I started on the permanent side. I then dabbled a little bit on the temp side. Kind of sat over both. I then became business manager. So I sort of continued doing my day-to-day role, but I sort of essentially looked after like the day-to-day of what was going on. At the time, my boss wasn't in the office 5 days a week, so it was sort of overseeing things in her absence, almost sort of her deputy at the time.
Yeah.
And then she went through a period of not feeling very well, was having lots of tests done, to and fro from hospitals and doctors. And so my role, particularly then when she was taking more time off, was just to sort of oversee things. So actually she was getting less and less involved in the day-to-day running.
How did that? I mean, you're a couple of years into your recruitment career. You're still very young. How the hell did you deal with that? Like, how did you feel when that was starting to happen?
I'm not someone that on the outside flaps, which is probably a good thing for this. What's below the surface, I don't know, but up here, I'm fine.
Little swan.
Like a swan. Yeah. Fine, because I had really good people around me. I think, and I'm just someone to kind of take things in my stride quite a lot. So we'll just, we'll go with the flow. We won't panic about it until it happens.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where she had messaged me one day and asked to come to hers. So I went round, and her best friend was there, who I had met through her, and we sat down on the sofa, and she told me that she had been diagnosed with a form of leukemia.
Oh no.
Yeah. So to be honest, the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes after that, I don't really remember at all. I was just trying to digest what she just said. I think we all just sat and cried for a bit. I mean, I was not expecting that at all. And then, I mean, the first thing was not about work.
No, it's not.
Even days after, it was, oh my God, are you going to be okay? I had and still have the most respect for this person, more than anyone, for, give me a shot when I had absolutely no experience. But she just did so much for me and my career, obviously till now. But whilst I was working with her, she was just amazing. She was a mentor. When I started, I'm not ever someone who is uber confident. I don't blow my own trumpet. I know what I can do, but I'm not someone that, and she just did so much for that.
Do you know what though? That says, I don't want to interrupt the story too much, but I can so resonate with that. Like growing up, like I don't think I ever, I've said it before and it's not a joke. Like I don't think growing up, I understood what business meant or was. No one had taught me anything like that. I didn't know anyone personally from a family perspective really that had done anything. I thought business was like a topic, like businessman was a job. I didn't know you could I didn't get it. I thought, I only knew people in, honestly, I thought I only knew people that were in like services, like not even doctors, like, doing like, building trades and teachers and things like that. And then, but also it's reflective that, and the people around you are so important because then going to uni, you don't really have any mentors, didn't really get on well with like any of my tutors or anything. Going into teaching was it's almost like the logical thing to do for me. And then I didn't have I remember when I worked in a school, I loved that job, but I haven't got a single standout teacher, mentor, or anyone that I bought into. It was just kind of a good environment.
Yeah.
Then I got into recruitment in Australia and there was a couple of really good people around me, but it was too big a company. And then when I got to London and I joined a company called Venquis, I had literally had three people. I had Claire, my boss, I had Steve and Barnaby, the three owners and founders. And they were so important on my confidence, me growing as a person. And I still look at them now and think they changed my life kind of thing. And I get the same vibe off you because you don't even know what you're capable of, I don't think, until someone else sees it first. Yeah. As a young person. So this woman saw in you something that you clearly didn't know was there.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Definitely. Did you still want to go to London? Did you still have the London aspiration up until that point? Or?
I think I wasn't really enjoying the role as soon as I started. I loved the team. I loved everything about it. I think I thought I wanted to be in one of these big companies. And actually, once I started, realised very quickly that that's actually not me at all. We're the extreme. We're 5 people. We are really tiny. But I don't actually think I'm best suited somewhere with thousands and thousands of people. So a part of me did, but actually a lot of my friends were there. I was spending most weekends there. So actually I kind of had the benefit of both worlds. Yeah. I was going in and seeing people, but I was absolutely loving the team and loving my job here. So I just completely put moving to London aside and just
cracked on.
Grace, yeah.
So when that news comes and that's going to rock everything out, what happened next?
I think one of the hardest things, aside from that, was obviously we didn't then want to just go straight away and tell everyone. Obviously she was telling me in confidence. So I just had to kind of digest that and then not tell anyone. So, I mean, I'm someone that I hold so many secrets. I'm someone that people always just offload to, which I'm flattered by, and I don't tell anyone. But there comes a certain point where actually
you need to talk to someone as well.
Yeah, but I didn't. That was completely private. I told no one. So I was trying to carry on my day-to-day role whilst having this in the back of my head. And then there came a point, I can't remember back how long after that, where she and I sat down and she said that, I've thought about this long and hard. She didn't have the energy that she had before. I mean, she was the most sociable person ever. Always busy, always had plans. And actually she just didn't have the energy for that. Wasn't coming into work as much. And, she sat me down and just said, look, I've made the tough decision after all these years. I'm going to have to sell Grace. Which I just didn't really know how to take that, because I wasn't quite sure on the outcome. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen next. What I did feel was just awful for her, because that was her baby. She'd set it up at home. She'd set it up from absolutely nothing. And I can't imagine how much hard work there is to do that. So I sat down, we talked through, the options, what she was going to do. And she'd said, there's two options. One was to sell it to a big high street agency, and the other would be to a PE company. And really the way to keep Grace as it was, and it still is, and to keep its brand, keep everything it's about, would be to sell it to the PE company. Otherwise, taken over by a big high street. I mean, they do what they do amazingly.
Yeah, they would just consume. They would have consumed it.
Yeah, consumed it, got rid of any sort of shared functions.
Yeah.
And what Grace is sort of known for, that would just be gone. And she'd spent however long building a reputation in the area, and had clients.
What's the name Grace? Do you know where the story behind the name Grace?
I wish there was a story. There's actually no story. Just
really?
like the name. Yeah, there was no story at all. None. You just like the name.
Well, it's been your saving grace, though, hasn't it? It feels like it was your saving grace right through.
Yeah, it was. So we sold it, and that's when, 2016, and that's when I took over of the day-to-day runnings.
So when she said it was going to sell to a PE firm, did she then start prepping you for the fact that you were going to be the leader of the business?
Yeah, I feel like it happened really fast. I think I had about a week handover, 2-week handover, which sounds crazy, but at that point, I was dealing more with the day-to-day anyway, because she was taking some time off, and she wasn't in 5 days a week. So actually, it was almost like we had been handing over for some time. Mm-hmm. So she wasn't really involved in the day-to-day as much. So it wasn't like suddenly it was 5 days and then gone, and I hadn't done any of this before. Obviously, I'd never managed people before. I'd been working here for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
I'd never managed a business. I had no idea about how businesses run, accounts, basically anything at all. Yeah. And I think the first thing that went through my head when she said, this is the route I want to go down, but the sort of, the clause is you become MD. They need to have someone who's been there, part of the existing team, to sort of manage it, and that is, you're the person that would be doing that. Oh shit.
How old are you at this point? 26 or something?
26, 27.
Yes, you're a baby, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
To be taking over a company.
Yeah.
And how many employees? Was it 5 then?
At the time, I think there were 7.
Right.
So still really small. But at the time, I was the newest.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I was the newest, the youngest. And the first thing I think I said was, "Are you sure I'm qualified to do this? Are you sure you want to give me your business?" I mean, I was so speechless. I was so flattered. I thought that she would even consider handing her baby over to me.
Mm.
And still am so grateful. I mean, when do you ever get the chance? Ever. I remember she said, go and have a think about it. You know, obviously this is a huge decision, and it obviously was the biggest decision ever. And I remember calling my dad, one, because he's my dad, but two, he comes from a legal background. He's an ex-solicitor.
Right.
And so very logical, very calming, you know, doesn't flap. He would just be very, right, let's just go through things. Let's go through the options. And he didn't go through any options with me. He just said, Loz, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
You know, when are you ever going to get this chance again?
No.
You're not, is the answer.
A final interruption to today's episode to introduce Vincere. Vincere is the all-in-one CRM ATS platform built for the recruitment and staffing industry. Now, I first heard about these guys about a year ago. The amount of prospect recruitment agencies and clients I was working with that were telling me they were moving over to Vincere, I had to look into it. And what I found was a business that had a global reach with multiple offices around the world. So they've got this follow the sun methodology, which allows them to support recruitment businesses wherever you are and be in your time zone. But the technology that they've invested in is becoming a disruptor in the space. More and more recruitment businesses are doing this to give their recruiters a competitive advantage. They broke into the G2 Crowd's momentum grid as a market leader based on their reviews from their customers. So the agencies that are using this platform are raving about it. Now, if you're a RAG listener and you're thinking about changing CRM, or you're a new business looking to launch with a new CRM, then I would get in touch with these guys, because if you mention that you're a RAG listener, they're doing an amazing deal. By visiting www.vincere.io/RAG, you can get an exclusive deal which offers 2 months completely free on a 2-year commitment, or 3 months completely free on a 3-year commitment. This applies to all licenses that you've either signed up for now or that you'll add in the duration of the contract. So get on there and have a look. Finally, if you're listening and you're a recruiter and you're thinking, I want to move into a more of a business development role, and I'd like to keep hold of my recruitment knowledge. Well, these guys are recruiting for a BD person, well, multiple roles in both Sydney and London right now. So if you've got a strong recruitment background, you want to move into BD and you want to work for a fast moving tech business that's helping people like you right now, then get in touch via their website, because they're hiring today. Back to the show. Did you have to buy in, or was there any deal that you had to put money in and get equity and stuff? Yeah. So that's a decision, isn't it? You obviously got to part with some money rather than just be an employee.
Yeah.
But sounds like an amazing opportunity. So
I just jumped straight into the deep end.
How did the one thing that's going through my head right now listening to this is, how did the other 6-7 people take it when you're the newest, you're the youngest, and she's asked you? Like, I imagine that would piss people off. Like, it can't have gone down amazing with everyone.
I would say mixed. I think I don't think it was a case, no one thought, oh, that would have been me. And that's not at all because I'm great. Absolutely not. It was more a case of who could it be? Who's at what stage in their life? I think was probably quite a key thing. Who would want to take this responsibility on?
Yeah.
And I think those are probably the main things. Who would want this mammoth task? Who could take this on, and who potentially could keep this brand going? And also who has been doing as much of that sort of role as possible. And I'd already had, the permanent side, the temp side. I stepped up and got a bit more involved in other bits. So I had quite a good sort of all-round experience, albeit not managing director. But, I would say of everyone, for her, it was probably a bit more obvious. Obviously, for me, that sitting down with everyone, for her to tell everyone the news, of what was happening with her, and then also what was going to be happening to the business. I remember sitting there sweating, just thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know how this is going to go. And, I don't want to say I'm someone that always cares what people think, because you shouldn't always, but I do, with the team, I did, massively. And, the last thing I wanted was people upset or angry, annoyed, really resentful. That that was my fear. I remember the night before, I think I slept about a minute. I was just so anxious about how the news was going to go down, because all I wanted was for Grace to continue as Grace and for it to be a success. So, I wasn't trying to come in and sort of, take over people's jobs and sort of start telling people what to do, because everyone knew what they were doing, which was the great thing about it. This office ran itself. Everyone knew what they were doing. It's manager's dream, really.
Yeah.
So that, that wasn't my intention. So I think it went down probably mixed opinions. I think, if I'm honest, a lot of it was probably just shock and real sadness that she wasn't going to be there, because everyone felt like that about her.
Mm-hmm. So what did she keep some stake to as a chairwoman or anything? No, just complete exit.
No. I think for her it's a bit like a breakup, isn't it? You break up with someone, but you kind of keep texting them on the side. Shouldn't do it.
No.
Shouldn't do it.
It's
easier just to do, or if you're quitting smoking, just cold turkey. I think that is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep in contact with her.
So she's okay health-wise, or?
Yeah. So she's going to have lifelong treatment, but it can be controlled.
Well, that's good news, isn't it?
Yeah.
Has she got a good quality of life now, or?
She has got a very different life, because, as I said, she was super sociable, out all the time. And, what you have to do with this is just manage expectations and manage your life around this. Mm-hmm. So, it does make you tired. It does weaken your immune system. It does mean you have to have a slightly different diet. You're just very, very tired. So you can't be out all the time. No. So, but I think it was the best decision she ever made for her. And so that for me is the best decision, as long as she is okay.
Yeah. Well, I think it's incredible that you took that on, and at that age, I don't think there's many people that would do that. And some people would just panic and be like, look, I can't do this, and I'm too young, and I've got, why there's so much resting, because the biggest fear is you fuck it up, and it's her baby.
I still think that sometimes. I don't know.
Wow. So how has the 4 years gone? Let's talk about that. What's it been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the most amazing learning experience, for sure, and the steepest, and I'll never get that again. So for that, I am truly, truly grateful. I think
she's still there if you want to call and ask a question. Does she still answer?
Yeah, I still speak to her. I'm seeing her in a few weeks, actually. So we keep in contact. We try not to talk too much about work, because actually it's just quite nice to catch up generally. But I truly care for her, and vice versa. So we catch up, and when we're allowed to go out, obviously be really careful now. But before, we'd meet up and have every sort of month or two, and just catch up and see how things are, see how our family are doing. So, and she's someone, she was always someone that, a bit how I am with mine, I want to know everything that's going on in their life. And, when I started at Grace, single, and had been single for most of my time at Grace, and she was always, oh, what dates are going on? Come on, yeah. Really wanted to get involved. Yeah. And every time we'd go on a date, she'd come back on the Monday and say, oh, come on, let's go and have a quick catch up, what's going on? And that is no more, and I have a partner. Yeah. And I remember this was after she'd left, and I remember I called her, so I knew that she would just love that news. She always said, oh, I just love you. So she said, right, we've got to get a date in the diary. I need to meet the man. I need to meet him. Said, you were a bit crazy when you started. I need to meet the man who aimed you. Said, okay, fine. So, we still keep in contact loads.
How's the business? How's the business been since you've been at the helm then? What's the journey been like? The first kind of bit, a lot of it was, because obviously it's not something that I had set up. So it's
not been set up in a way that necessarily you would,
Yeah.
something completely different. So whilst you're given this, it's not quite a blank canvas, because you're looking at, okay, what have we got? How do we want to move forward? So I think the first part, a lot of it was a lot of sort of streamlining, trying to make things a little bit more efficient, getting the name out there a little bit in a non-old school way. So, actually getting some social media, just bringing it a little bit into the 21st century.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the first big chunk of it, was probably that. And then we've got a slightly new team now than we did back then.
Mm-hmm.
But a great team. And that is something, I mean, it was a great team before. It's just a different team now. But they're bloody great. They really are. And that is what's going to help us steer this next bit.
Well, every time I've spoke to you, I've got a vibe like you love it, and I didn't know the story. Like, obviously, we've worked together for a while, and I didn't know it wasn't at first. I just thought it was your business, right? So you definitely give off that vibe, like it's your
that
business.
Good thing.
Yeah, it is a great thing. You're not sat there, you don't. You've took on the mantle, and you've took it as your baby now, and it is your business, and that's brilliant. I think one of the things this story hopefully will do is it will show people listening, even recruiters listening, that you don't always have to start the agency yourself to be the agency owner. Like, you don't. Some people, they look at this entrepreneurial life and they think they've got to leave where they are to get that, and wouldn't even be a bad conversation to say to your boss, "What's your plan?" Because I'm up for taking this over. If someone says to me in a few years, like one of the team, like, I want to be the MD, CEO of Hoxo, and how do I become that? Fucking hell, what an amazing conversation that is. Yeah. I remember, I'll be honest, I didn't want that from my old company. Like, there's a guy who joined about 6 months before I left, who was an amazing guy. And he wanted that. He wanted to be the owner, that the CEO, the MD of the recruitment company. I didn't want that personally. I was excited by the startup story. Didn't realize what the fuck I was getting into, but we got through it. Well, we're getting into it. We're still only 3.5 years in, but yeah, I think it's really amazing that there's a completely different way of going about it. So my final piece, Lauren, is where's the future heading? Where do you want to be once COVID's over, and if it's ever over? Where do you see your future? What's the future for you in the business?
I mean, the immediate thing for me, because we've had to very quickly from the get-go, when lockdown hit, furlough most of the team. So the main thing for me right now is getting my team back. Yeah. Getting them all back and making sure that they are all back full-time, happy, working. I think for us, what I want to do is, we've always been very transactional, and I think a lot of agencies are, particularly as the sort of sector that we work in. But I think it's really about really trying to explore how we're going to add more value to our clients, which perhaps hasn't really been. We've obviously tried to deliver an amazing service, but actually how we're going to add value. So one thing that we're going to be looking at is, whilst we are doing that with clients now, perhaps we don't add anything other than that to our candidates. Mm-hmm. So actually having a designated side of the business that nurtures them. So looking at the journey, I know from our reviews, I know from experience, the service that we give is fantastic. It can always be improved. But actually, I personally think
that, like, recruitment, I mean, I was a 360 guy. I know why it works. Profitability, I get it all, but I do think we're moving into a sector that's more, if you take like the Apple store as an example, I'm reading Steve Jobs' biography at the moment. It's amazing. Yeah. The way that Apple stores are built, like, you walk in, you see someone, they say hello, they've got a clip, they've got the little iPad, they ask you where you want to go, they move you away. They're not allowed to walk with you to that. They're not allowed, right? They have got to stay in their zone. And if you, I remember when I bought my iWatch, I was like, can I get a look at the iWatch? They were like, yeah, but I can't do it. You have to wait for that guy. And I was like, What?
Everyone plays their
Yeah.
strengths.
It's a
Everyone does their bit.
it's a proper factory, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it works like clockwork.
Yeah.
And every single part of that process is meticulously planned, and it's so well designed. And why can't you build a recruitment agency where the candidates get an unbelievable experience? Because people, that's their whole job. And clients, again, they get customer success managers, and they get absolute golden treatment because the people are focused on it. They're accountable for it. So that's
exactly what we're looking to do. Quite quickly, actually, when we bring people back, I've been trying to sort of rejig skill sets, and actually having someone come back who is solely designated to the candidates, not just providing them a good service. They get that from us. That's something that is something that we live, we breathe, but actually offering something else. So looking at more coaching for them. Yes, recruiters look at people's CVs and give them some advice, but they don't, not all of them necessarily have that as an actual service. Give a quick glance over and advise. But so this is going to be a separate section that will truly add something different to the candidate side of things, which will be really good. Mm-hmm. And actually, we are slightly different in our approach. We are far more collaborative than some. So whilst traditionally you have your desk, you work on your roles and your candidates, we don't work like that. So when we have a role, you have your consultant is technically everyone at Grace. Yeah. So everyone works on that together, and the sole purpose is that it's Grace, rather than I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it's my candidate, and sort of sometimes it encourages really bad behavior traits to do that, because it's more about who wins than actually the overall company.
Yeah.
So that for me is good.
It's that balance, isn't it, between driving internal competition, wanting people to be big billers and what have you, but also remembering that the overarching aim is for the candidates to get the job and the clients to fill the role. So it's going to be that is a big challenge across the sector. But Lauren, I've loved your story. I've loved hearing it in detail. I didn't know half of this stuff, so I'm really pleased. Thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome.
If anyone wanted to reach out to you, if it's a consultant in the market, it just was like, you know what, your story resonates. Are you open to a chat with anyone? Yeah,
absolutely. You can drop me an email.
I'll tag you on LinkedIn. I think that if you use LinkedIn a lot. Yeah,
I do. Yes, more and more.
You do. I'm helping you with it. So guys, get on Lauren's LinkedIn. I'm tagged her in this post. Reach out if you want to have a chat. If you're a client, if you're a recruitment owner and you want to bounce any ideas off, if you're a consultant and you want to ideally be in the same position that Lauren's been, then look, take that time. Lauren, let's get you back on in the future and see how Grace turns out. All right.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. No problem. Guys, hope you've enjoyed the start of this season. It is a bit different. It's going to be, every episode's going to have a slightly different vibe, but my aim is to, again, bring this industry together. I want us to learn from each other. I just want, let's unearth these wonderful stories like Lauren's and share to support, and together we'll grow. Together we'll be stronger. The sector will survive. I'll be back again next Wednesday with another story. In the meantime, you stay safe and I'll see you soon.